Super producer Brenden is safely partitioned on the other side of the glass. Getting up early with us or staying up late, however you are rolling on this particular Tuesday. A lot of stuff to dive into on the big show today. Obviously, there's a pretty big football game coming up this weekend. This 49er grass thing is interesting to me. I have multiple thoughts. Also, saw an interesting line from the Stein line with regard to potential Malcolm Brogdon trade. And I know the conventional wisdom is always, and I believe it still, is that if I'm Brogdon and I don't get traded, well, he might be a little bit disgruntled. But it sounds like maybe Malcolm Brogdon is extremely gruntled here in the Portland metro area. So we'll dive into that. Where's the value in Malcolm Brogdon? Because I don't know. I'm not there. I'm not at practice. I'm not in in and around the workouts. Sounds like him and Scoot have formed a is it a Padawan relationship? Did I get that right? With
Padawan master relationship.
There it is. Stay in your lane, Myers. But it sounds like, that Malcolm Brogdon has really kind of embraced the role of bringing this 19-year-old kid along with Chauncey Billups. That's great and all.
Again, being gruntled is great.
Yes. Everybody on this show is extremely gruntled. By the way, talk about, I love Jeopardy. I watch Jeopardy all the time. One of my favorite Jeopardy categories is word origins. I make fun of the Star Wars nerds. I am a nerd in my own particular way. I love word origins. We may have to dive into how gruntled or disgruntled became a thing. But anywho, back to the Malcolm Brogdon. I think it is great to have a pro's pro in Malcolm Brogdon being there, showing a 19-year-old number 3 overall pick kind of the ropes on how to be a professional basketball player in the NBA. And Keith Smith told us yesterday, which we've hinted at a couple of times, but Keith also brought a pretty good, he's been playing pro basketball the last 2 years, but has he played, 16 games, I think, for the G League Ignite last year? I don't think it was more than 20. And even the year before, the amount of reps and the amount of games, he's been playing pro basketball. And
29 total, 22 starts.
29
total.
29 total games.
22 starts.
That's not a college season.
Over 2 years, though.
He's played 29 games over 2 years. Okay, so I was right. It was about 16 last year. Okay. Whew.
Spot on, my man.
That's half of a college season.
Yeah.
That's not a lot of basketball. And
how many games, Justin, would you play if you won your conference tournament and then ran to the Final Four?
I think 40 is the number.
Or I just mean at the end of a year, say you play 3 games in your conference tournament, then you win 3. That's 7 right there. You know what I mean?
I think most college basketball schedules are around 30 some games, depending on tournaments and all that stuff. And then you get into so it's around 40 is let's just, for math, a nice round number is about 40 in a season. I think last year Brenden Miller played 40 games for Alabama. And I have been comparing Scoot to other early round
37. Good.
Played 37.
Good call, my man. You are firing on all cylinders this morning.
It's because I am a degenerate when it comes to the NCAA tournament, and I always 20 wins is always kind of one of those benchmarks, and one of my things has always been if a team wins 30 games, if you look at a team, I don't care where they are seated in the NCAA tournament, if they've got 30 wins, that tells me they know how to close out games. And I always kind of give them an advantage. Now, that being said, I never win my bracket, and I don't know how much my system is working. Anyways, point being, if Brogdon has taken on this mentorship role, along with shooting 40% from three and playing, pretty decent basketball when healthy. I think that's great. Is that worth $22.5 million in a clogged up backcourt? See, that's the thing. It's great to have essentially Chauncey Billups, Malcolm Brogdon, all hands on deck, because I don't care what anybody says. Scoot is the future of the Blazers. He just is. You tanked for him twice. You got a top 3 pick. At some point, you have to put him to the front of the line. And if this is a get your legs under you, learn the ropes, at some point, Scoot is the future. Has to be. You can't have a number 3 overall pick just be a jag, right? Just a guy. You can't do that. So if Brogdon is kind of taking on that role, that's great. But here's my wonder. Does the math add up? 4 guys in the backcourt, because Shaden's going to come back. 4 guys in the backcourt. One is already making, what's Ant making? 21 million? Something like that?
25.
25 million. So Ant's making 25 million. Brogdon's making 22 million. That's a lot of millions of dollars in the backcourt for not the future. And I think Ant could potentially be a great running mate. And this is not I don't mean to throw, what do they call it, ricochets or catch a ricochet? Is that what the kids call it? I'm not trying to have Ant catch a ricochet here, but Ant's been in the league 5 years. He's a great basketball player. He's going to be a great contributor to the Blazers, I hope. He's not made an all-star team. He is not started on a team that is anywhere close to the playoffs, right? He's a very good basketball player. I don't know if you can start saying that's the future. Scoot's the future. He is. Until proven otherwise, he's the future. Ant could be a great Robin to Batman, but that's the role moving forward. It just is.
Right.
That's not show friends, it's show business. You can't then have a Malcolm Brogdon. It's too many of those guys making over $20 million
right. And when
in a backcourt that is crowded plus minutes. Like, I love that Malcolm Brogdon has taken on this role. And I think I might have stolen this off of Danny Meringue's Twitter, even though Danny doesn't. He works for another station now. Great job, guys. It's like, from what it sounds like, the development of Scoot, who's been playing maybe his best basketball these last couple of weeks, you can attribute that to Malcolm Brogdon.
Right.
Is that Malcolm Brogdon has kind of been that guy, and that's great. I don't know if that's worth 22.5. Like, it is.
Right.
It is a tough spot in the next couple of days for the Blazers with Brogdon. It'd be great to have this relationship continue. And what happens if all of a sudden Scoot has leaned on, a veteran pro to kind of guide him through the NBA, and all of a sudden he's gone? But then there's math.
Right.
You know what I mean? 4 guys, so many millions of dollars, and you ain't the future.
Yeah.
There's math.
Well, and when you consider that Scoot and Shaden together combined make less than one of those guys make, you have to move. Like, it's very simple. And Anthony Simons will not be moved, nor should he, I don't think, unless, some Keith Smith fairy dust comes out, and, like Keith said, the Orlando Magic come in with, picks ablazing, Justin.
All right, I don't want to be mean, because this show is not about being mean. But I think some of the questions do have. Right now, Anthony Simons is the Blazers' best player. But it also must be said that right now the Blazers are 15-33. So what is the value of the best player on a 15-33 team? Are we overvaluing Ant?
Yes.
Are we overvaluing him
Slightly.
the way we have done as Blazer fans, massive guys in the past for years and years? And I'm not advocating I'm just asking questions. I'm a question guy, especially when it comes to the hoops, right? I'm just asking questions. I love Anthony Simons, and like I said, he's the best player on this team. But, I'm sorry, I slided them 2 losses. It's a team that's 15-35. It's a 15-35 team. What is the value of the best? So Is Scoot on, or is Ann on the market?
No.
Do you answer the phone? Because
you answer the phone.
we know that Neil O'Shea, hey, we'd like to talk to you about hang up. Does Joe Cronin even listen to the offer?
Sure, because
listen to the offer, right?
Because he's not as stubborn as Big Haircut was.
Well, he might be stubborn, but in a different way.
No, he's just.
I bet you he's good. You watch, because I don't know Neil O'Shea, never met him. I don't know Joe Cronin.
I'd be willing to bet he's back in either New York or L.A.
Probably.
just a thought. Just a thought.
He's got a lot of money to hang out.
Valets and all.
Valet parking 4 days. But two guys seem to be kind of polar opposites, right?
Sure.
One guy, like Joe Cronin, seems like wearing flannel, drinking beers. The other guy, three-piece suit, martini.
Mm-hmm.
But I would be willing to bet, much like a lot of other player personnel in every sport, at some point, Joe Cronin's going to get stubborn about his guys.
Right.
Because Ant's not his guy. Well, I guess kind of. He was on the staff. He was there in the front office, but he was not.
Not Scoot, not Shaden.
No, those are his guys.
They are.
Those are his draft picks. So we can talk about the stubbornness of Neil O'Shea, but we just give it a minute, and we'll see about the potential stubbornness of Joe Cronin.
Yeah, I think it's ultimately what you do is like, I would be shocked, and I don't think that's going to happen because I still think he can offer you value, Justin. I just think you have two blocks that have to fit into a round hole, and you can only turn one of them into a circle, the way I look at this. It's like, and in this particular case, it's like you said, you got two guys in the backcourt who combined are making, 45 some odd $million and are taking up minutes away from the young guys who need to develop because the other thing we haven't mentioned all this, ho-hum, Shaden Sharp's going to be back soon.
I think we mentioned it a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah. Or this segment? Or sorry. I didn't know if we mentioned it this segment.
Four guys in the backcourt, right?
Fair, yeah.
Four and a half, really,
I mean?
if you count Thibault. So this is the ultimate. It's all right. This is the ultimate, what I talk about a ton in a lot of different situations. There's paper and there's people, right? The people part of this, it would be like, it would be great to keep Malcolm Brogdon here if he's happy and content and is like, I like this role. I like this organization. I like the culture, everything. That's great. People. Paper, $22.5 million on a contract that we traded for, but we didn't sign you to. And I don't know if we can afford it. Or minutes. Or, the paper of, we got a lot of guards. And you know that 2, maybe 3 are completely untouchable. All right, so we got more to dive into with the Blazers. We got more to dive into with the NBA. I do want to talk some NFL. We kind of hinted at it a little bit yesterday. You're starting to see it trickle down, even though the Super Bowl is just days away. But the biggest thing after the Super Bowl is, of course, the NFL draft. And now are coming the question: is Caleb Williams a guy? Caleb Williams a guy you can build an entire organization around? We'll dive into some of those interesting questions and where other quarterbacks may potentially call home. That's coming up next, 620 Rip City Radio. the Travis Taylor stuff. the biggest stories of this Super Bowl are the two quarterbacks. Right? That's like Patrick Mahomes, is he on a path to be the next Tom Brady? Or is Brock Purdy the next? Like, Brenden, we've got two quarterbacks vying to be the next Tom Brady. And again, I find it very funny, and I'm going to have a smile on the inside looking into my crystal ball. I don't have a crystal ball, but if I did, I could look into the future.
A crystal ball, not a crystal ball, right?
Nah, that guy's a turncoat.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
Hope you enjoy it. Fourth in the ACC. Have fun. Anyways, if I look into my crystal ball, right, looking forward, because I've lived a bit of a life, it makes me smile on the inside because I know at some point, right, they're gonna kick this old guy out to pasture, and Brendan's going to be like, yeah, I'm going to slide right in. I'm going to take that job. And you're going to have some hotshot young producer who's going to be telling you how Patrick Mahomes is better than Tom Brady, and you're going to have to go, you don't know you weren't there. It's going to happen in your life, and I am going to smile the biggest smile when it happens because I've spent all these decades fighting off these Kobe and LeBron people about, they better passer than Michael, better. It's like, you don't know, you weren't there.
They'll come in.
And damn you for making me say it, but you don't. You don't know, you weren't there. And there will be a time when Brenden will be in his 30s, maybe even his 40s, and somebody's going to be like, I mean, Patrick Mahomes, if you look at the numbers and you're going to like, no. You don't know?
It'll be like Justin and Michael Jordan. It will be.
You weren't there. And it's going to make me smile inside.
It should.
But it is not crazy. It's a fascinating plot twist. Who is more like Tom Brady? In that, like there's the Patrick Mahomes part of it, which is if he wins on Sunday and that gives him 4 Super Bowls, he's won 3 of them. That's such elite company. Tom Brady screwed up the metric. We talked about this a ton. The fact that he's got 7 on his own. After that, it's Joe Montana at 4 and Terry Bradshaw at 4, and then I don't even think a handful at 3.
You got Aikman with 3.
And Aikman's got 3, and I think that's it.
Without, I think Bart Starr, you're going, you know what I mean?
Since cable TV.
Yeah, you're going back. But yes.
Yeah.
Modern era for sure. Got to honor those early Super Bowl winners, Justin. The Ice Bowl and all that.
I don't even think the Ice Bowl was not a Super Bowl, though. That was the NFL championship.
Okay, my bad.
Wasn't it? It is kind of crazy. The Super Bowl used to be like a bowl game. When it was originated, because the NFL and the AFL were 2 completely separate leagues, and they were like, well, let's just play a game at the Rose Bowl, and it's like you look like I think UCLA marching band played the halftime show, and if you go back and you look at like the Packers, Vince Lombardi's wearing like a UCLA visor because they were handing out it was like playing the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah,
that's what it was. But
I remember as a kid, real quick, Justin, obviously the Super Bowl was still in its 50s. And I have grandparents that are older than that, and grandparents who are like, yeah, I remember what it was like before the Super Bowl. Yeah. And that's still for what it's
worth. The NFL and AFL, well, I don't know about the AFL, but I know the NFL championship was more valuable than the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl was just kind of a game.
Yeah, so that part of it's and you just think about what it is now.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it later, Justin. A record, they said, and I'm curious if you're going to be part of this, $23 billion in bets expected for this game, Justin.
Yeah, maybe betting a little bit here and there.
It's mind-boggling what it's become when you mentioned the first one's like, cool, we're here, we're in California, we got UCLA visors, let's play this little exhibition. And now it's like, oh, the dogs are off. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And huge stakes and everything else.
No halftime, like you said, the halftime show, what that's evolved into. I mean, it's we were talking earlier in the week, Justin and I are like, how big artists are to have gone to the Super Bowl and how artists, who have had multiple appearances are kind of in rarefied air and all those things. But yeah, back to your point.
I'm definitely going to place a bet on the national anthem. It's Reba McEntire, whom I love. But
I love Reba.
At one point, we talked about this yesterday, the redhead championship belt. At one point, Reba had the redhead championship belt.
She sure did.
At one point, she did. Ed Sheeran was like the last. I'm trying to think who. Like Jessica Chastain hasn't had it's been a minute. I'm trying to think like who holds the redhead championship belt. But at one point, Reba had it.
It's true.
She had a sitcom and Fancy.
She might still, Justin. She's still. I mean, she's still pretty relevant.
I've seen Reba in concert. Crushes.
Really? That's awesome. That's sweet.
Crushes. Anywho, back to the original point, which was quarterbacks. So it is fascinating that we're in a situation where you've got two quarterbacks, both being looked at as like, is this the next Tom Brady? Now, I know that it is a bit silly, but it's not that far-fetched because Patrick Mahomes is looking for number 3, which puts him ahead of Peyton Manning, puts him ahead of Eli Manning, puts him ahead of Ben Roethlisberger, puts him ahead of a lot. Like, it's so hard to win 2 Super Bowls. So if he gets 3, and as young as he is, and as clutch as he is, and the fact that they have got a team that seems to be set for at least, and again, a lot of it depends on Andy Reid, but seems to be set for the next handful of years. If there's ever anybody that could chase down 7 championships, it'd be Patrick Mahomes. Then there's the Brock Purdy part of it, which actually kind of fits the Tom Brady mold. Like, Patrick Mahomes was drafted in the first round. This is what the Chiefs had I don't know if they envisioned him to be this, but they envisioned him to come in, be the starter, and have a Pro Bowl-laden, championship-laden, potentially Hall of Fame career. That's what you do when you draft a quarterback in the first round. That's your hope. That is your dream, is that you're at least, can I get 7 years of starting quarterback out of this guy? That's what they did when they drafted Patrick Mahomes. When the 49ers drafted Brock Purdy, the very, very, very last pick in the NFL draft, they were like, can't hurt to have a guy like that. And that's more Tom Brady than Patrick Mahomes because Tom Brady was kind of in that spot. It was third-string emergency quarterback with the Patriots who had a guy in Drew Bledsoe that was signed. Extension. A lot of money. Then gets clobbered by the Jets, almost dies in the ambulance, makes a miraculous comeback, and loses his job to Tom Brady. Like, Brock, like, butterfly effect. Tom Brady isn't Tom Brady if Drew Bledsoe doesn't get hurt. Now you might say, as a Tom Brady stan, that his magic was a level above and he would have somehow, some way found a way.
You still need the right place, right time, right things to happen. I'll say this.
But like if Drew Bledsoe doesn't ever get a punctured lung,
right,
and
should never ran and scrambled, just throwing that out there and that
different
world.
time, it's a different era,
right?
But if he never does, like if Trey Lance doesn't get hurt by the Seattle Seahawks, what is Brock Purdy's career?
Right, and I'll say this too. Just because I remember
football is so crazy and awesome.
Yeah, it is. Just because I remember it very fondly, Justin. People knew Patrick Mahomes had potential, but there's a reason he didn't get picked until pick 10. There were some doubts. If I'm not mistaken, let me check on this. I think he had I think he had 1 winning season at Texas Tech, right? They weren't very good. He threw up a lot of yards. They weren't very good. And as I always like to remind Justin, this guy named Mitch Trubisky went second in that draft. And then, for comparison's sake, how Justin's like, you take a first-rounder, you hope it works out. 100%, case in point with the very next year, Justin, Josh Rosen goes pick number 10.
Yeah.
So, you never really know until like I said, what's that old saying you told me from Chip Kelly?
He said and I'm pretty sure he lifted it off of somebody else.
But it makes perfect sense.
It was quarterbacks are like tea bags, right? You don't know what you got till you put them in hot water. And it's crazy too in the NFL, and we've seen this in the NBA as well, where like some guys in the NBA were just meant to play NBA basketball. They were not meant to play college basketball. We've seen guys that were kind of pedestrian in college, and then they go to the NBA, and it's like, oh no, I've got it figured out.
Kyle Kuzma.
Sure. Yeah. I'm sure there's probably.
So average at Utah. He's been like a dude in the NBA.
Yeah. And it's just because some guys, like the NBA game, just clicks with them and the college game just doesn't. And it happens with quarterbacks, I think, a lot. A lot. Like there are just some quarterbacks that just whatever, like the college game, like we've seen the Johnny Footballs and the Tim Tebows and, the Jamarcus Russell. Like we could go on and on and on about, and Vince Young. And all these dudes who were just men amongst boys in college, and for whatever reason, the NFL game didn't click with them. And then we see Brock Purdy, and you could kind of say Patrick Mahomes is in that realm as well. Now, part of that was Texas Tech under Cliff Kingsbury didn't play a lick of defense in the Big 12 back then, and that probably led to a lot of losses. They probably scored about 48 points a game, and I think they lost like 7 games a year. And that might have been more to do with Cliff Kingsbury's defense, and the Big 12 at the time. But, like, there are just some guys that you watch them play in college, and you're like, all right. And then they go to the NFL, and it's just like, nope, I figured it out. Boom, 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 got it. Decision-making, fast thinking, wiring, moxie, all that stuff. And then there's like the Joe Burrows of the world. It's just like unfair, just like good at both. You know what I mean? I mean, like
GOAT status at both levels.
Like I remember watching Josh Allen get just frankly torn apart by the Oregon Ducks.
Oh, the Ducks crushed him. I remember that game like it was yesterday. They annihilated.
And I'm like, this guy's gonna go top 10 in the draft. It's like, yeah, because big giant dude, big giant arm, gonna go into an actual offense with guys that can catch the ball. And it just kind of clicked.
49, this is just fun just to look at it. This is hilarious. 49-13 in favor of the Oregon Ducks. Such a blowout. We saw Taylor Alley throw a pass.
Hell yeah.
Justin's like, yeah, I want to live this up again.
Dude, Taylor Alley.
Josh Allen went 9 of 24 for 60 yards and 1 interception.
Yeah.
And he was drafted that next year.
I was watching that game. And we were like,
that's nuts.
This guy? But, again.
But you never know.
Go to the NFL and it clicks. It just works.
But better talent because he had subpar talent around him at Wyoming?
There's a lot of reasons. But again, this is why football is crazy, why the draft is such a crapshoot, and why you never know what you got because, like, Patrick Mahomes didn't win a lot of games at Texas Tech. But how much of that was his fault?
What about a guy like...
How much of that was special teams? How much of that was the Big 12 at the time or an offensive line that you... And, like, Josh Allen, like, he didn't do anything. Like, they didn't go on some Boise State run at Wyoming.
Right.
It's like, well, how much of that was his receivers he was throwing to and all of that? And, like, all of a sudden you take that talent, put it in the NFL, and...
What about a guy like Trey Lance? Is that entirely because of COVID? Like, is that, like, that whole draft class?
I think it's lazy. I think it's lazy
and Zach Wilson
to throw out that was a COVID draft. They didn't have a combine. They didn't have film. It's like, yeah. What about the dozens upon dozens of other quarterbacks that before COVID that you all missed on, or that you all, you know what I mean? Like I said, Jamarcus Russell existed. He did. He existed, and it's for multiple different factors, right? Sometimes it's system, sometimes it's, and I do think this is a huge part of which the Caleb Williams thing is fascinating to me. And why I think quarterback drafting is such a crapshoot. I firmly believe there is like are you familiar with Todd Marinovich? It was the 30 for 30 on him. It was a very big deal when I was a kid. It was the cautionary tale that we were all taught as young athletes about don't do drugs, right? Todd Marinovich had the world in his hands, and he gave it all up for drugs. Well, there was layers to this story. And I remember watching this 30 for 30 and thinking, like, I wonder how many stories are like, not exactly like his, but like this. Brenden, I don't think people understand the path it takes. Heck, even like Scoot Henderson, or I don't know, think of like who's a early round kind of bust in the NBA draft. Like who was the guy with Minnesota?
Coach?
No, early round draft bust.
Is it Sam?
Ended up
Quarterback?
No, NBA.
It'll come to me.
Now he
how
plays
many
for the
years ago?
Warriors.
Wiggins, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was not prepared for that.
I know.
And had the life vest.
One day you're going to go with a bunch of other producers, and you're going to be like, "Wait, what? Your host stays on the same sport in a segment, and he doesn't just
We vary on this show. Keep
like
me on my
like a
toes.
dog with sees a squirrel." Just, but here's my thought. I've seen it like with these NBA players and these NFL players, where Brenden, you start preparing your football or basketball or baseball journey when you're like 9, right? And you practice every day. And then you go to middle school, and then you go to camps, and then you get into high school, and now you're starting varsity, and then you're going through recruiting. And everything is like, I got to make the league, I got to make the league, I got to make the league, I got to make the league. And at some point, you make the league, and I think more people than you would imagine make the league. You go, all right, it's over. I don't have to work anymore. Because since I was 9 or 8 or whatever when I started playing Pee Wee football or started playing rec league basketball, all I have been doing is preparing to go to the league. It's the special ones that get to the league and go like, no. Championships and rings. Those are the special guys. Because I'll bet you there's a lot of guys, not just quarterbacks, who are just like, yeah, I've been doing nothing but working towards I finally did it. I did it. And all your friends are like, you're going to make the league. You're going to make the league. You're going to do it. And you finally do it. You're like, okay, can I be done now? And then you get guys like Patrick Mahomes, who are like, they have a different wiring. And he went 10th overall, probably, obviously, clearly should have went 1 overall, but gets into the league and is like, yeah, I'm at a different level than everybody else. It was a very unfocused segment there, but I thought entertaining. Not all unfocused segments can still be, they can still be entertaining. I could tell that to a former boss of mine. Justin, you got to stay focused. I don't know. Got all over the place. All that being said, 2 quarterbacks in this Super Bowl, both potentially the next Tom Brady. Coming up, we're going to talk some NBA. There's a interesting layering of something going on in Golden State, which I think could be fascinating in a couple of days. There might be some more players up on the trading block. James Harden's doing James Harden things last night, and more news and notes around the NBA coming up next. But before we do that, I do want to tell you about our good friends at DeBella. That's right. When I say good friends, I truly mean it. Good friends at DeBella. They can help you with your home improvement because we all know about the Portland winter weather. Might be another cold snap coming. Definitely wind, rain. The ice storm is behind us, but that doesn't mean the rest of the weather is going to stop. How's your roof holding up? Is it leaking? Is it aging? Have you been putting it off for far too long? Well, now you can get a free quote from my good friends at DeBella. They can also help you with your windows, your siding, all your bath projects, and you can save up to 30% on your energy bills, right? You probably got your energy bill this week from the ice storm. It was like, whoo, boy, that was up there. Save up to 30% on your energy bill by taking care of your roofing, your windows, your siding, and even doing bath renovations because you can put in more economical, energy-saving bathroom technology. It's out there. All you got to do is go to DeBella, DABELLA.us for a free, no-obligation appointment. They can make updating your home so easy. And you might be thinking, well, Justin, I can't afford this right now. Well, how about 2025 you? How's that sound? Because right now, 0 down and no payments until 2025. On approved credit, but it is 0 down and no payments until 2025 for your home improvement projects. They have got over 15,000 5-star reviews on Google. Visit DeBella.us today, the official home improvement partner of the Portland Timbers. Tuesday. And it's been a while since we actually had football to talk about. We can only talk about Taylor Swift and whether or not Patrick Mahomes is going to catch Tom Brady so many times. So we got to talk about something else. So the practice field has now come up on our list of topics. So we'll dive into that. Also, again, the Bears and the Commanders have some decisions to make with regard to quarterback at the top of the draft because Caleb Williams feels like an easy pick there at number 1 overall, but obviously a whole lot more to discuss there. And also, we got to make or miss. Pounce is going to join us. So we got a whole bunch of other stuff to dive into. And I want to get back into this trade deadline Malcolm Brogdon talk also in hour number 2. But we're in hour number 1 right now, and it's time to go around the NBA for interesting discussion topics. We need John Tesh to help us get there with Round Ball Rock. All right. We talked about it with Keith Smith yesterday. It's been a topic of discussion a little bit this week because it seems as though the marriage between LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers is a bit strained. And so now when we start talking about LeBron's future, and LeBron's tweeting out emojis of was hourglass that's running out of sand, which, by the way, I love that, like, LeBron is, like, full-on elder millennial, right? His subtweets are still emojis because it's like, yeah, I have a hunch the kids probably look at that and be like, all right, Grandpa, boomer, with your emojis. But anyways, hourglass running out of sand. He put a New York Knicks towel on to do an interview, and they was like, well, why would he have well, all the towels are Knicks towels. Like, yeah, but he could have taken the towel off before the interview. All sorts of stuff. Wearing blue and orange sneakers while he's playing in New York City. All that stuff. And every time we start talking about LeBron James, of course, the topic of Bronny comes up. And I have said I am not rooting against this kid. I actually have a bit of sympathy for him because it keeps being brought up over and over again, and because it started with LeBron talking about how he wanted to play professional basketball with his kid. Well, somebody who actually has some experience, not exactly with playing with his dad, but playing for his dad, current head coach of the Milwaukee Bucks, NBA championship head coach, Doc Rivers, his son, Austin Rivers, obviously played in the league, and he was on ESPN. I think this was on NBA Countdown, and he had this to say about the potential of Bronny, LeBron James Jr., playing NBA basketball with his dad. That finally somebody said it. Somebody in that, like, finally.
Couldn't agree more.
Somebody said it and didn't have Justin agreeing with Austin Rivers on my bingo card this morning. But I don't know if there's anybody else out there that has a better point of view of potentially what could be going on. Now, obviously, it's not the same, but, it's kind of on LeBron. Because, he tweeted out last year, Bronny better than half the players in this league. He tweeted it. We didn't say it. He tweeted it. But then it's also kind of on ESPN a little bit of like, and it's a reality because who knows what LeBron James is doing behind the scenes of like, yeah, if you draft my kid, I'll come play for you, which sounds absurd. But at this point, nothing is absurd. And thankfully, somebody at ESPN didn't get all drunk about, could we, because ESPN knows, all the producers know all the people who run the numbers know that, boy, LeBron James playing with his kid in an NBA situation, you know the ratings that will drive? Huge, huge ratings. And ESPN knows it. And Austin Rivers came and was like, yeah, I don't want to see that. Because there's no chance he ends up being successful. You get all people root against him. Players will, I think, maybe not unfairly, but will definitely make him a focal point. And as he said in that piece, he ain't ready to be a top 10 pick in the NBA. Now, he might be good enough to, like he said, be a second-round pick, go to a contender, maybe do a couple of two-way. Like, there's different paths to the NBA right now. Playing in college till you're ready isn't exactly the only way and the only road to get into the league. There are guys who maybe aren't ready, who are just like, you know what, I don't want to do college. I want to start playing professional basketball. You can go to the G League. You can get on two-way contracts if you have some kind of talent, and then ultimately make your way onto a roster. But that takes patience, and that from both the organization and the player. Too many people, I think including LeBron James, are seeing money bags. Well, I think for LeBron James, I think it's a legacy thing. I think LeBron James, if you know anything about him, LeBron James is obsessed with everything mid-90s. Favorite teams, Yankees, Cowboys. He loved Florida State football. One of his favorite players, Ken Griffey Jr. What did Ken Griffey Jr. do? Played with his dad. There's an obsession there with LeBron James in terms of legacy, and like, I could be the only one to do it. Michael Jordan never did it. Now, he never say that out loud, but we know he's thinking that. Not going to catch Michael in rings, not going to catch Michael in legacy, but I could do something that nobody else did, and that combined with a team going like, oh boy, the money we would sell, or not the money we would sell, sorry, the merch we would sell and the money we would make. I mean, you see lines outside of USC, and USC stinks. And then the ESPNs of the world are like, the numbers we would do.
Man, if you could walk into an arena and say, I want the L. James jersey and the B. James jersey, it's a lot of money you'd make, like, no doubt.
And everybody's blind on the money bags. And good for Austin Rivers for going like, no, this isn't good.
I mean, Justin and I, we've talked about it. I watch enough Pac-12 basketball, not only for my own pleasure, but for my job. Justin's not wrong in his assessment with Bronny James. Now maybe Bronny James will have a word for us, Justin, if this makes it down to the great Southern California area. But he hasn't shown it.
He's a talented basketball player because he's playing Division I basketball. Top 10 picks pop off the screen.
And they
pop off the screen. So, anywho, all that being said, good for Austin Rivers. All right, we've got Make or Miss coming up. We have got It's Get Off My Lawn Tuesday. We got practice field drama. Hour 2 next, 620 Rip City Radio.
sports you need to know.
From the Goldberg-Jones Sports Desk, your 620 Rip City Radio headlines. Goldberg-Jones. Call 1-800-DIVORCE.
It is 7 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. Justin Myers with you. The 49ers arrived in Las Vegas to less than ideal practice field conditions as the sod laid over UNLV's turf has caused 49er frustrations. Kyle Shanahan in his press conference said the field being too soft with regard to the footing is what the problem is. Meanwhile, at Super Bowl media night, which is usually media day, but it changed up the format a bunch of different. Maybe it's because it's in Vegas.
Vegas, baby.
Patrick Mahomes says he is not worried about chasing down Tom Brady. Wouldn't that be fun if he did? He's like, yep, trying to chase him down. Other NFL news, the Philadelphia Eagles will be the first NFL team to play in Brazil. They'll be playing on Friday, September 6th, a very important day, against a to-be-determined opponent. And speaking of important, Devon Pouncey from the Rip City Remix is going to be joining us in hour number 3. But hour number 2 of Rip City Mornings starts right now on 620 Rip City Radio.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio. It's time for Justin Myers to wake you up here on Rip City Mornings, 620 Rip City Radio.
Welcome back to Rip City Mornings. I'm your host, Justin Myers. Super producer Brendan's got Make or Miss coming up in 20 minutes. We have also got a Get Off My Lawn. It is Tuesday. We've had this debate before. Of the months of the year, what is the grumpiest? I think living in this part of the country, I think it comes down to 2. I think there are 2 months of the year that are the grumpiest. One, right now, February. Now, February's short, but February, I think we all get a little bit grumpy because whether it's a New Year's resolution or just the turning of the calendar and the sheer amount of time before the bad weather and the darkness goes away, even though I know it's getting a little bit lighter each and every day. We'll take that. But much like the fact that Tuesday is the grumpiest day of the week because you hunker down for Monday, I think you kind of hunker down for January. Some people do the dry January. That was a mistake. Unless you need it, then do what you got to do. I did not. But people hunker down for January. We're going to get in the gym. We're going to start eating some vegetables. We're going to cut back a little bit on the sweets. And then by February, you're like, I can't do it. And the grumpiness comes in. So there's February. Then I believe the other month of contention is April. Now, Brenden is skewed because his birthday is in April, and this has nothing to do with that particular day. But I think also by April, I think most people around here go like, all right, I've had enough. I've had enough. But that stupid groundhog says April's going to be beautiful. At least that's what I took from it. Is that the groundhog in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, told us all, hey, start planning outdoor picnics in April. Never mind science and meteorologists and everything else. That groundhog, he's got it taken care of. Now, I don't know what the groundhog said about the practice field at the Super Bowl. We got to dive into this. It is equal parts interesting and also funny because the 49ers are saying that it's not a safety issue, the practice field that they were given at UNLV. Now, this is help me out here, Brennan. This is an indoor practice facility that they put the turf over, or is this
Outdoor, I believe.
Outdoor practice facility, but it's in Vegas. Vegas, by the way, very cold. You know, it's like freezing cold there.
It's only about 2 months out of the year, but December and January are usually pretty cold in Vegas before it starts to turn around again.
It's like warmer here,
dry though,
than in Vegas, but it's cold down there. Is this an issue if because remember last year, there was like the whole turf problem, the footing problem, all of that stuff going on at the Super Bowl. The Eagles were slipping all over the place. And would this even be an issue if last year we didn't have like kind of the turf drama
This
at
year,
the Super Bowl?
it wouldn't be an issue with any other team but the 49ers. And I say that only because...
Are you calling them the 40-winers?
No, I just think it's kind of personal experience. So a couple years back, Justin, and a good call to, I believe it was The Athletic who pointed this out. The first thing they said when they got there, the Niners, they said, this is MetLife Stadium 3 years ago when Solomon Thomas and Nick Bosa both suffered season-ending injuries on that turf. And what really kicked off this whole conversation some 3 years ago, so if you're Nick Bosa, Justin, Solomon Thomas, obviously not with the T, I think he's gone, I believe. Nick Bosa for sure. You're like, I made it all the way till the Super Bowl without getting hurt. I ain't going to play on bouncy grass. And I'm sorry, the other thing is, too, that just seems so silly to me. Practice on turf.
But the game's on grass.
Wouldn't that be better than playing on bouncy turf or bouncy grass?
This is a good question. I would imagine
my football team and your football team do just fine doing all their practices on turf.
Well, Oregon plays on grass. They've got a whole grass practice field.
Outside?
Yeah, buddy. Oh, yeah. Phil Knight.
But they don't even play on grass at home.
But when they go play at Stanford, they practice that week outside.
Because I'm like...
And there's a grass practice field in Corvallis.
There isn't.
They took it out?
They did. All turf, all the practice.
All right, well, it used to be there.
Yeah, no, there's the two fields outside and then indoor. It's all turf. It's all turf.
So
the Beavers are like, we can't prepare for grass, but...
Because this is funny. This reminded me of a story a long time ago. Gather around. And maybe you remember this. A little story time with Uncle Justin. But maybe you remember this when Oregon State, and I can't, for the life of me, I can't remember what year it was, but they were playing Boise State to open up the season at Boise. They were going to Boise. And some...
Was it the year I went?
Might have been. You might have been at the game. But some big money donor in Corvallis paid to paint the practice field blue so that Oregon State could get used to playing on the bluegrass, even though not actual bluegrass, but like natural grass painted blue. That's why I thought they still had a natural grass practice facility because they did back then. What year was that? Was that 06?
No, much later than I thought. 2010.
2010.
So, and I actually remember, I believe it was either the early years of old Gary or the final years of Riley is when
I think it had to be
when they moved the practice facility.
Oh, when they got rid of the grass.
Yes. So, because to your point, Justin, I remembered it well. There is still a there's still a video existing on YouTube of them painting the whole field blue.
Yes,
so,
it was a big deal in the news, and I remember.
I would assume just for like the sake that the Beavers like practice outside an awful lot. Jonathan Smith was one of those guys like, hey, if it's gonna be raining on Saturday, it don't matter if it's November, we're still gonna be outside, kind of a thing. So maybe that's why, but it's interesting that Oregon has grass. I did not know that.
Oh, yeah, they got a whole... You will never know because they built like Fort Knox style like berm around it that there's like very few cameras are allowed anywhere near.
You can't go to the top of the parking garage and look anymore?
You can't. No, sir. That is not at all allowed. But it reminded me of that story with Oregon State back in 2010 because they painted their practice field blue. And my thing was kind of what you were saying. Is like, okay, I get it. They're going to play on the blue turf, but that's grass. They're going to play on a turf field. It's like, how beneficial is it if it's blue if they're playing on natural grass? So I don't know the difference. I don't know what they do.
They lost that game, so I don't know if it makes a big difference.
I feel like with regard to the Super Bowl in the NFL, like this feels like very whiny from the 49ers. It feels like very, very whiny because, like, how many years do you have to go back? Like, it's a practice field. Like, you don't get the idea. Like, it would be nice to have, like, hey, we've got 2 replica fields for you to practice on, one for the 49ers and one for the Chiefs, and it is exactly the same. It's like, no, you got a grass field. Get your practice on. On the other hand, it is a Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's just interesting to me that, somebody, comparing, life isn't fair, as they say, but the amenities that the Chiefs have at the Raiders facility, just that probably makes it worse. if this is not the same because there's only one college in Las Vegas, but let's just say Nevada Reno was also in Vegas, and it was like they're on UNLV, but the Chiefs are on Nevada, so it's not really any like. There's a stark difference. The Chiefs are like, man, this is like better than home, and the 49ers are like, can we cut left and right, and not tear ACLs? So.
But the NFL came out, and the NFL said, look, this is not a safety concern. This is a preference thing. And,
they did.
And like I said, and now I don't want anybody to get hurt. Can I be on the record with Rip City Morning record keeper? Put it down. I do not want anyone to get hurt. But, like, this feels a little bit whiny. Of like, well, the grass isn't exactly the way we like it. It's too spongy. Like, what? You know
the
what
word
I mean?
Spongy.
It like, oh, really? The Super Bowl practice field grass is a little too spongy for your liking. Now, maybe there's a little injury PTSD stuff, and I get all that, and I don't want anybody to get hurt. But like, dude, it's a practice field. Like, how many times a year do you practice, whether it's inside your own facility or on your own practice field, and then you go and then you got to play like at FedEx Field and it's like a sand pit? You know what I mean? Like, it's the NFL.
It's true.
I know it's the Super Bowl and I know there's a lot at stake. I get all that, but like, this feels very early week, not a lot going on.
It could be. And I'll say this too. There is it's just happened more at the NFL level. And add one more piece of context to this, Justin. You're right. It is the Super Bowl. What happened 3 years ago? Odell Beckham tore his ACL in the middle of the Super Bowl. And that also brought up this turf. I'm no expert in sod technology, Justin. But I'll say this. Those who I have heard play football competitively, not NFL, but at least collegiately, you want to play on one or the other. If you can't, you want to be trained to play on grass or trained to play on turf. So, like, for instance,
but your entire existence, from like your entire life, you play on both. Like, that's life. That's just life in the NFL. I mean, I hear what you're saying, and personally, like, we have the fact that we still have turf in the NFL is kind of absurd, right? Every NFL stadium could afford the technology is there, right? Every NFL stadium could put grass down, and whether indoor or outdoor, they have the technology now. I saw a whole soccer stadium in England. I think it's Liverpool, where like the sod is in like wedges and it goes down and is infrared grown and then mowed underground. Like, we got the technology, but the fact that the grass is a little too spongy.
Yeah, it's just interesting because, like, again, this is such a funny conversation because I literally and figuratively had this conversation as this year was going down because, just for example, Justin, out of Oregon State's 13 games this last year, played on grass one time.
Stanford? Well, no, they weren't at Stanford.
Colorado.
Colorado's grass?
I believe so. There's still grass.
That's changed. It used to be like that awful, awful carpet turf.
Yeah, I think it's grass.
It probably is.
Yeah, because you're like, it's just interesting. But nevertheless, so you're saying the 49ers need to get what you get and don't throw a fit, Justin.
Kinda.
I like it. Give it the 5-year-old logic. I love it.
It's like, oh, it's a little, this grass is a little spongy. Are we going to have to change? Like, you're fine. It's a practice field. We actually brought in this grass special for you. All right. Coming up next, we got Make or Miss. Also coming up in hour number 3, Devon Pouncey joins the show. You will all be getting off my lawn, as I just called the 49ers. Whiners. I will also be whining, but Make or Miss is next. 620 Rip City Radio. All right, 1 hour from now, friend of the program, Devon Pouncey, joins the show, basketball analyst for the Rip City Remix and the Portland State Vikings. So we'll talk to Pounce coming up in an hour from now. We also have Get Off My Lawn. You best believe I'm grumpy about something. So we got a little Get Off My Lawn grumpy old man take coming up in a smidge. But before we dive into all that, it is time for Make or Miss. Here we go. wants to. I think he could have.
So the timing.
I think he could have over Deion Sanders. I truly believe so.
The timing never worked out. So it's like he was on staff several times as a running backs coach. And like I think before Kansas City and then obviously like he's been on that Colorado staff and he's spoken like Justin, other than, and you can help me out a little bit because I was a twinkle in the eye of the Slaughter family. Bieniemy was one of their best, if not maybe their best player during that national championship run, right? I mean, maybe throw in their quarterback, Darian Hagan, who was a dude, but like it was Darian Hagan and Eric Bieniemy.
And then ultimately Cordell Stewart came along, but like that was not the national title run, so it was a little bit later.
So, I think to that extent, like
Bieniemy was their best player.
Yeah, like I've heard years and years, like when, for instance, like when Mel Tucker left, right? Colorado to Michigan State. Sorry.
Yeah.
Funny to say out loud. I forgot about that guy. Didn't we all? Could have just not made that phone call. But when he leaves, there were a bunch of Colorado fans who were like, why are we hiring Carl Durrell? Eric Bieniemy, like, I think at the time he was the Chiefs' offensive coordinator, but hadn't gotten that NFL job. But they didn't pivot that way. He showed interest, but didn't do it. So if Deion were to leave, I think that'd be a perfect job for him. Otherwise, as much as I disagree, he might be a career coordinator at the NFL level.
Might be, and that's fine.
And that would be. I would like to see him get a shot, though. No, even Nathaniel Hackett got a shot.
And I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure he will. roof's a little bit old. You know that roof needs to be replaced. You know it's time. And you might be thinking, well, I can't afford that right now. Well, how about in 2025? Because with zero down and no payments until 2025, that's the financing opportunity that DeBella is offering right now on approved credit, zero down and no payments until 2025. Siding, windows, bath renovations, more efficient home with roofing, siding, windows, and bath renovations can save you up to 30% on your utility bills. 30% savings. And plus, DeBella's is the best in the biz. Is that me telling you? No. That would be silly. Is it them telling you? No, they wouldn't dare. It's the 15,000 plus 5-star reviews on Google that tell you that they are the best in the biz, all for their excellent work. Go check it out. It's right there on Google for public consumption. 15,000 plus 5-star reviews. Plus, as I mentioned, the zero down and the no payments until 2025. Go to DeBella, DABELLA.us for a free, no obligation appointment. Just want to talk to you. Just want to see what they can help with, and they can make updating your home so easy. DeBella, the official home improvement partner of the Portland Timbers. right, time to wrap up hour number 2. It is Tuesday. It is February. It is cold. It is rainy. Even though the Super Bowl is a couple of days away, it also means that football is going away for a while. March Madness is around the corner. There's going to be a Masters tournament, and there will be fun things like the Kentucky Derby and the Indy 500 and all the fun stuff, but football's going away this weekend. That makes me grumpy as well. So each and every Tuesday, to just get that negativity out. We don't want it to sit and fester, and we don't want to be a negative show. We want to be a positive show. We want to be a light in this sports world. We don't want to be part of the darkness. So each and every Tuesday, we set aside a smidge of time for me to get some things off my chest. Now, normally some of these things are pretty trivial. Today, I'm going big. I'm going big because I finally have had enough. I have had enough, and I am going to put my foot down. Not that it's going to make a lick of change, but it is time for all of you to get off my lawn. Here we go.
Time for Justin to get grumpy. Get off my lawn on RCM.
All right, social media, get off my lawn. I have reached my limit. I have reached my limit. I tolerate social media at Justin Myers 541 if you'd like to follow me, but I have said multiple times I'm a terrible follow. I've even made a bit of a New Year's resolution, and I have, by the way, so far so good, stuck with it through the first 37 days of 2024, which is I am not going to be negative on social media anymore. I don't need to put any more negativity out there into the universe. I don't need to get into Twitter spats. I don't need to say how I don't need to let the world know I don't like something on social media. That's this show's job. When I don't like something, I talk about it, and you guys make the decision to come to this particular show. So, with that being said, I am fully triggered. On Sunday, the Grammys happened. Now, I am not a fan of about 90% of the things that was going on at the Grammys. It's not my bag, baby. Shout out Austin Powers. But every once in a while, there's a great moment of musical appreciation, and it took over the internet by storm. For those that don't know the story, back in the 80s, Tracy Chapman had a song. It was called Fast Car. It's awesome. It is an all-time classic. Luke Combs, a country artist, said that when he was a kid and riding with his dad, it was like his favorite song. It was his first favorite song. So he asked to cover it. He covered that song this last year, did a country version of it. It's great. Is it better than the original? No, it is not. Was it ever meant to be better than the original? No, it never was. But because music is the way it is, it's shot back to number one. Not only giving an entire new generation an appreciation for an unbelievable song, but letting them now use the power of technology to go back and look at Tracy Chapman and go, wow, were there other songs? Yeah, other songs too. And Tracy Chapman got to have a second chart to hit number one on. And so they put them together. Tracy Chapman, who hasn't been performing for a long, long time, she comes back to the Grammys, plays fantastic, sings fantastic. Luke Combs is there as well. And Brenden, this is a beautiful musical pop culture moment. And you know what I see on Twitter? A bunch of negativity. I see nothing on. Quite frankly, Luke could have just stayed in his seat and let Tracy have the spotlight to herself. That's a real thing that a real person tweeted. A person in the media right now, and I'm not going to give them any actual pub, but that's a real thing. A real person tweeted. Quite frankly, Luke could have just stayed in his seat and let Tracy have the spotlight. So, how about we just enjoy this beautiful moment? Super Bowl's coming up. What's a big part of the Super Bowl? Celebrity. Celebrity has been part of the Super Bowl really for decades upon decades upon decades. And you know what? It just so happens one of the biggest superstars in the world happens to be dating the tight end of one of the teams. And now we got to get into argument upon argument upon argument about, is Taylor Swift, is it too much? Is she ruining the NFL? Why didn't Taylor thank Travis in her speech? I bet if Travis, he would thank Taylor on his pod. I'm so sick of social media right now, I could vomit, but I'm not going to. Because I hate throwing up. It's the worst. When you get it in your nose. Ugh. But why can't, I don't want to be one of these people, but you know what? If there's ever a time to do it, what is going on in our world anymore? Tracy Chapman and Luke Combs have a beautiful moment. Two very talented, incredibly good-looking kids seem to be having a real... And we got it like, well, Taylor didn't thank him. Did Taylor's snub Celine Dion on the Grammy stage? I am out. Like, go yell into your pillow. Like, I am so sick of all of this. It is getting more and more ridiculous. And you know what? Today was the day that I finally just have, like, you could put a video on YouTube of puppies, playful, and some angry, mean person's going to be like, well, just, it's like, can we just enjoy a moment? Luke Combs, Tracy Chapman doing Fast Car was a fantastic moment for multiple reasons. Two fan bases that maybe don't always come together came together. Sat there and enjoyed. Also, again, because this is grumpy old man take, two people that actually sang the songs without a backing track and without a lip sync and without pyro, without flashing lights, without dancers, without anything. Just two talented artists sitting there on a stage at the Grammys, the world watching over and over and over, and yet Tracy Chapman joins Luke Combs on stage. Oh, I think you meant Luke Combs joined Tracy Chapman on stage. Like, what are we doing? How can you, like, I want to just go to these people and be like, are you okay? Is everything all right? So, Brenden, all that being said, I'm getting real sick of social media. I'm a bad follow on Twitter for this particular reason because I refuse to jump into this dirty, disgusting cesspool. And I felt like I have finally been triggered too much by seeing over and over and over again. And it wasn't just one particular person, but this person just happens to be someone in sports media. So it popped up on my X algorithm. And then, of course, since I engaged with it, speaking of social media, quit trying to trigger me, Elon. Quit it. All right, so I saw one Twitter argument, and I clicked on it, and that hit your algorithm, and that maybe thought to tell you, oh, you probably like all this. No, I don't. I don't like all these things. And maybe could it possibly be that Taylor Swift is just a very talented singer who has a boyfriend who plays football, and that's just it. This isn't some ploy by the government. This isn't, by the way, neither Travis Kelce nor Taylor Swift need any help with fame. It's like, oh, this is a sham relationship. Oh, really? For what? For what benefit? He's already maybe the greatest tight end of all time, was massively popular before Taylor Swift came along, and she sold out a gajillion stadiums 4 times over.
Please propose.
I hope so, just to upset everybody. But you know what? They'd probably take a beautiful moment like that and get all upset about it. So,
you know, it's
to everybody on social media who just couldn't let a good thing like Fast Car collab happen, you know, get off my lawn. And get off, like now. Now. Get off. I'm so sick of it. Whew. All right. Enough negativity, a little positivity. Hour number 3. We got Pounce coming up in hour number 3. We may have some more football talk. We got an RCM mailbag. All sorts of stuff next. 620 Rip City Radio.
news you need to know. From the Goldberg Jones Sports Desk, your 620 Rip City Radio headlines. Goldberg Jones. Call 1-800-DIVORCE.
It is 8 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. Justin Myers with you. The 49ers arrived in Las Vegas for Super Bowl prep, but they did not have ideal field conditions. The sod laid over UNLV's turf was a little squishy. At his press conference on media night, Kyle Shanahan said the field was being soft was the potential issue. The NFL then scrambled, and the 49ers said, we will deal with it. Meanwhile, also at media availability, Patrick Mahomes says he is not worried about chasing down Tom Brady, but merely focused on the Super Bowl at hand. Other NFL news, the Philadelphia Eagles will be the first team in the NFL to play a game in Brazil. The game will be held on Friday, September 6th against a to-be-determined opponent. Coming up in 20 minutes, we're going to talk some hoops with RipCityRemix basketball analyst Devon Pouncey, who's also a friend of the program. We have got the RCM mailbag, but a sneaky college sports decision that may have a big impact down the road. Hour number 3 of RCM starts right now at 620 Rip City Radio.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio. It's RCM with Justin Myers, right here on your home of the Portland Trailblazers, 620 Rip City Radio.
I understand there is a Super Bowl in front of us, and obviously there is a whole lot of storylines, narratives, things to get excited about. Brenden, what was the number you threw out there?
23 billion expected in bets. Billion with a B.
And I saw that story, and then I saw this college football story, and I look and I go, There's some interesting things that are maybe potentially coming down the road. We talk about a lot on this show. When I started in radio, 2004, 20 years ago, I started in this industry. You know what didn't exist? The iPhone. The iPhone didn't exist. The iPod existed, and people would listen to certain shows on their iPod, and it was kind of like a broadcast, and so it became known as a podcast, but those were laughed at and scoffed at by my industry, only to see down the road, like, people like being able to pause their shows, and so we all had to adapt. And we have joked on this program, like, there's going to be something. We don't even know, right? Blockbuster had a chance to buy Netflix and laughed them out of the room. Laughed them out of the room. What do you mean? Mailing the DVDs to the people? No, they come to the store. We got all these stores. I don't know if you saw them. They're beautiful, by the way. Blockbuster stores. I talk about that smell of like a hardware store or that smell of a Toys R Us when you were a kid. Boy, that smell of a Blockbuster, which is probably the fumes from the plastic cases mixed with the popcorn. But like the smell of a Blockbuster, walking in there with your buddy who's staying the night on a Friday night. Yeah. And it's like, and you get to rent 2 movies. Pick 2. What? What a moment in childhood. But Blockbuster, like, we got all these stores. Netflix, we're going to buy you and then what? Mail the people? Like to their mailbox where they're going to break all of our DVDs. Oops. Netflix is like, well, we just put them on the internet. And then
Bingo.
And then TVs are like, well, we just make the internet hooked up to the TV. And they're like, yeah, that's even better. So it's like, it's always something, right? That you just can't see coming down the road. There's always something new. When you see this thing of $23 billion in bets, because again, I still remember when betting was wink, hush, don't talk. Like, boy, could they win by more than a touchdown, Jim? It's like, I think they might win by more than a touchdown, if you know what I mean. Like, it was kind of secretive. And now it's like, well, now there's shows, and it's the betting lines are right up there on the ticker and everything else. I wonder, ultimately, where are we going to end up here with the sports betting thing? Because it is so easy. It's on the phone. And I'm wondering, nobody could have imagined that there would be, a DraftKings in our world. What? 10 years ago.
5.
Even better.
Like 5. Cut in half.
I'm new. I'm still new to the game.
Justin,
I resisted it for a while.
Yeah, when I first met you and we talked about this, you're like, I'm out on sports betting. You were completely out when I first met you, so that just shows how much it's changed.
Here's why I was out. I talk about sports for a living. I don't want my financial, and I, a little money here or there every once in a while now. Also, I will say the good folks at DraftKings came on to be a partner with the program, and I can be bought, as I have said multiple times.
For the record, I'm not bought.
Let it be known, Justin can be bought. Anybody out there?
I know, yeah, for
but
sure.
it was never my thing because I work out a lot. You know what people don't want to hear about? My workouts. I golf only in the summer. But you know what people don't want to hear about? My golf game. They want to hear about is Tiger Woods going to play or who's going to win the Masters. Nobody wants to hear about my golf game. And contrary to popular belief, nobody wants to hear about your bets. All right? Nobody does. They care about their bets. They don't care about their own bets. But yeah, 5 years ago, it was still like you got to go offshore or, you know what I mean, somewhere in the Cayman Islands, and you got to go through like a PayPal account. And sometimes you got your money, sometimes you didn't, and then all of a sudden, boom, now it's on your phone. It's legal. It's above board, all that stuff. And, I mean, there are even like certain, I think in Ohio, I want to say, like, you can bet at the stadium.
Some places you can. Yeah, totally. Like, obviously.
Well, I mean, I guess we can bet at the stadium, too, if I could get Wi-Fi at Autzen. But, well, I can't bet on college. But, you know what I mean? Like, you can
drop an NFL bet from Autzen Stadium if you wanted to.
Yeah, or, like, I could be at Moda if I ever went to Moda.
Yes,
I could be at Moda watching the Blazers, and I could sit there with my phone and...
So I've actually done that before. I want to say like a year and a half ago. It's actually kind of cool because you are ahead of DraftKings to have the phone and do like live betting as it goes. You can be like, hey, who's going to make the next bucket? Plus 500, all that stuff. That's kind of fun to do. But
like it's getting to where it's almost going to be in every state coming around. I don't know. It's just one of those things where I'm thinking of like, we're in the weird, murky area. Like, what's going to be the future of this? Because I know the NFL is having problems, and I know the NCAA is having problems with regard to players placing. Was it the LSU guy? Did you see the LSU guy, football player, put in like 1,200 bets on an account that was like under his mom's name, including betting on himself to like gain more than 89 yards in a game?
I didn't see that.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, he was betting on himself. He bet the over. He didn't bet the under. He wasn't taking a dive. But the more and more money, $23 billion, the more and more money that gets involved here, like, what's coming down the pike? I wonder. Is the NFL ultimately going to just allow players to bet like on themselves? We've had this discussion. I've always been adamant. No, absolutely not. You should not be able to bet. But like, I think in Vegas, like boxers can bet on themselves, right? I think that's legal. I think that's a thing. I don't know. I could be making it up. I could also be thinking about the great movie Over the Top that featured Sylvester Stallone, where he bet on himself in Vegas to win an arm wrestling competition. And he not only won that money, but he won a truck and he won the custody of his son. It's a great movie. How come there was not an Over the Top 2? I want to know what happened to Lincoln Hawk down the road. But I thought like boxers and like combat sports, I thought they could like potentially bet on themselves. I thought that was a thing. We don't know. But is there going to be a time where you think because it seems silly to say, but like I just said, it seems silly that Netflix was a thing. It seemed silly that iPhones were a thing. It seemed silly at the time that, cord cutting was ever going to be in our lives. Is there going to be a time where the NFL goes, all right, here's the deal. Much like parents with Facebook and Instagram accounts, like, all right, which I'm not a parent, but I don't know if you should let your kids have Instagram. You can have the Instagram, but I have the password. Do you know what I mean? Like, do you think that's ever going to happen? Where the NFL is going to be like, you can bet. You can bet all you want. We get the password and we can monitor it. Because if it's like, if
that
we
would
know
be the necessary transparency needed.
that's what I'm. But like, it's not going to stop, right? The money's not going to come down. It's not like people are going to be like, "Oh, this betting thing was fun. I think I'm good now." More players are going to get busted. Can you put the toothpaste back in the tube? The fact that it was easy to be like, "Hey, Pete Rose, no gambling," and he's like, "I didn't," but then you have a bookie that got busted, and here you go. That was easy because you didn't have, a DraftKings billboard out in left field. And now you're telling, football players, hey, no betting, can't do it. And it's like, but what I just saw on the big screen, there's it's a FanDuel thing that just played. So what's the deal? I just wonder if there's ever going to be a time. I think there will. As crazy as it is, I think there's going to be a time where the NFL is going to be like, fine, you can bet. You can bet on your games. We get the passwords. You got to register it with the league.
I could see that.
We get the passwords. And don't you think it would kind of, and you can't bet on your team to lose.
It seems like such a nightmare.
But doesn't it seem like more of a nightmare? And I hear what you're saying. Doesn't it seem like more of a nightmare the more the easier and easier it is to put money down? Like, how many?
It's like
there's
politics,
been like
Justin.
4 or 5 guys in the NFL that have been busted on this, right?
Yeah, it's like politics. Don't get caught cheating, right? So,
is it going to be like the NCAA before NIL, which was like, hey,
don't get caught.
Don't pay players.
Wink, wink.
But
it's like, yeah,
if you just get too egregious with it, like make 1,200 bets on your mom's account and including you to go over 89 yards, that's too far, and it's going to be a judgment call?
Yeah, and I think ultimately...
Because I don't think we're going to stop seeing players get busted.
No, I just think players need to not be stupid. Like, for lack of better terms, Justin, should I go...
Well, that's...
I mean, should I be Calvin...
Keep waiting a long time.
Should I be Calvin Ridley and go and make my draft king's name Ridley 7? I mean, for the love of Pete, right? It's
as you say it, it sounds ridiculous, but isn't that almost better? Because I know who he is. I know what he's
just so you're gonna get punished.
He was betting 9-game parlays.
He was
right. So it had nothing to do with him throwing games. It was like there's 8 other games that have to fall in line for him to even. I don't know. You're probably right. It's probably going to be like the NCAA. Oh,
just don't get
like
caught.
the NCAA like 7 years ago, which is to a degree everybody's like doing it. Just don't like holding, right? Oh, they hold on every play. Well, you can't hold just don't hold a bad. It's not like people are going to stop. Like the numbers aren't going to go down. Like the numbers are going to keep going up. $23 billion just on the Super Bowl. Just on the Super Bowl. You wonder why the NFL is just printing money. All right, I'm going to take the over on I got Reba over. I think it's 2 minutes, that national anthem. I need Reba to hold that note. Hold the note, Reba, just like on Fancy. All right, coming up next.
She had her own TV show for a hot minute, man. It was good.
Reba's a legend.
Yeah.
The night the lights went out in Georgia. All right. Wasn't even her song. Took it to number 1. All right. We've got Devon Pouncey from the Rip City Remix. He's joining us next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, Blazers don't take the court until Thursday night. Now, Thursday afternoon, there will be a trade deadline. What will the roster look like? Will the Blazers be in the mix with potential transactions between now and then? And what does the rest of the season look like if there are maybe a couple of shakeups to the roster? Also, since the last time we talked to our next guest, Damian Lillard made his return to Moda Center. Blazers spoiled said return, and if you follow him on Instagram, he had really good seats, like really good seats. Friend of the program from the Rip City Remix basketball analyst, Devon Pouncey, back on the show. Pounce, what's up, buddy?
Oh, man, some more of it. How you feeling?
You probably just heard me introing you there. Nice seats on Wednesday, dude. Like, I mean, not on the wood, but still, I was appreciating the stories.
I could kick the heel of the people whose feet was on the wood. How about that?
Well, you were there. Take us back, because obviously I want to talk about the Blazers, the trade deadline, and kind of what the rest of the season is going to look like. But take us back to Wednesday night. I watched it on TV. It was a special night at Moda Center. It was fun to see kind of the old building have some juice, right, and have some life and a buzz in the building. It was fun to watch it. Quite frankly, a game that mattered, and hopefully kind of maybe some more games in the future that might. But you were there. You were in person. You were right in the heart of it. What was it like? Take us back.
I mean, first and foremost, shout out to the Blazers. I just think they all around handled it properly with class, from the organization, the front office, the marketing team, putting together tribute videos, to the fan base, the way in which they welcomed Dame and, welcomed them with open arms, the signage that you saw around the stadium. I mean, there was one sign that went up on a jumbotron, if you will, from a young kid, and I'm paraphrasing, but basically telling him, Dame, go in the ring and come back home. And, when folks saw that on the big screen, it was a huge deal, and, the whole crowd just went up. And so I think just from top to bottom, welcome back to Portland was everything that it was supposed to be from the side of the Blazers, the way that they embraced him coming home. And then obviously for him, it was just a wealth of emotions. You know what I'm saying? He's back home, literally.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he's staying in Milwaukee, his family's here, his house is here, his everything is here still. He's just kind of out there in Milwaukee playing basketball, essentially. And as soon as the season is over, he's planning on coming right back to Portland for the off season. So all the way around, it was great. The energy was the best I've probably seen since the last playoff game I've seen here at the Moda Center. I haven't seen that energy, even when we still had Dame and we just weren't playing so great, and he was scoring 60 and scoring 70. The energy was just absolutely unmatched, and I think the energy also really helped propel the Blazers into playing a really competitive game and ultimately being able to come out on top and win. You just felt like it was more to play for when it comes to the Blazers, who obviously, sometimes you can kind of get in the low when you're not playing so well, you're not particularly playing to go to the playoffs or anything like that. It was easy for the Blazers to go out there and compete with the energy that was out, obviously, because of the return of Damian Lillard.
Devon Pouncey, Rip City Remix basketball analyst, friend of the program here on 620 Rip City Radio. I talked about this with Aaron Fentress on Thursday after the game, and you were obviously there front and center. I saw something from Scoot Henderson that I loved. And now I don't know Scoot at all. I've never talked to him. I hope to at some point. He has an open invite on this program.
Absolutely.
But I don't know him at all. But I've been around enough competitive people to where there was a little pep in his step. And it felt like there was a little dog inside, okay, nice tribute video, welcome home. But it's my team now.
Yeah.
And I've kind of felt that a little bit. Maybe it was more hopefulness, but you saw something from Scoot you haven't seen really all season, especially in that first half. And I loved it. I love that competitiveness, Pounce. I love the fact that Dame came back and he didn't just, say, yep, he's a legend. I'm just happy to be here. It was almost like, no, it's your welcome home. But you know what? It's my turn now. And I loved it. That's what I felt. Did you feel that?
I definitely felt that, but I also just think Scoot's been playing pretty well as of he's starting to really kind of come into his own and find himself. I think in the beginning, he was trying to learn the pace of the game at this level, and I really think he's starting to settle in, not turning the ball over as much, hunting his shot a little bit more, shooting and playing with a lot more confidence, and obviously, he's elevated his scoring as of late as well. But I think he's an ultimate competitor ultimately, and that's the kind of guy Scoot is. But coming in with the hype he had, I mean, he came in a higher draft pick than Dame did, who was a rookie of the year. So he's got a lot to sort of live up to in that regard. But yes, I agree wholeheartedly. He came out and competed his tail off in that game, and he didn't roll over, and he let it be known that, I'm here now, essentially. And I think he's been playing that way as of late for the Trailblazers. So a lot of good signs, because a lot of people are already kind of questioning Scoot, and I've even heard some people already be out on Scoot, which is like way too early for that in my opinion. But, fans can be fickle sometimes, and, and again, the hype that he has coming in as a number 3 overall pick, he wasn't quite living up to it, whether it be because of the injuries or him just having to figure things out. He wasn't living up to that for a lot of people around here, but I think now folks are really starting to see that Scoot really can be the real thing.
I mean, you look at, and I got the numbers in front of me right now. He's averaging 13 points a game. That's 12.8, but I bumped it up. Averaging about 13 points a game, but this field goal percentage is under 40% for the season at 37, which I think that's the number, Pounce, that I'm going to be focused on with him. The last 10 games, though, that has been upped by 5%, which is significant in the NBA, shooting above 40%, shooting at 42%. To me, that's the key. I know you've talked about knowing like when to push the gas pedal, when to change direction, when to kind of change speed. For me, the thing with Scoot is like, boy, if he ever figures out how to get that field goal percentage up around 40, up around 45, because getting to the lane and getting to the rack is not a problem. It seems to be kind of finishing. And that's been, I think, one of the things that you've seen these last couple of weeks, especially in these last 10 games, is he's now up and over 40%, and he's finishing a whole lot better. That's a huge key for me. When you look at, like, the development of him, I know I ask you this every single week, but it seems to be kind of fluid every single week. Is that where you're at on the field goal percentage? Is it still the, kind of getting those rookie legs under him? Where are you at on terms of Scoot's development?
Yeah, I just think it's more so knowing and picking his spots and being able to know where it is that he thrives most scoring the basketball, whether it be getting downhill, you know what I mean, really finding that mid-range jump shot and even the long ball. Like, you're starting to see him kind of walk into that shot with a little bit more confidence because teams are willing to give him that shot a little bit more. Where in the beginning you might have felt sometimes that he was sort of trying to force it downhill because he's such a good athlete, and that's what he was most comfortable doing. And then, once you realize, well, hey, I got to start to take what the defense is giving me, I think he's really started to thrive in that regard and being confident and willing to show that whatever you give me, I'm able to step up and make happen. And so I think for him, it's more so not forcing the action, because I think he was kind of forcing the action a little bit earlier, trying to be a playmaker and sort of just making things easier on himself and being confident in his ability to take what it is that the defense is giving him. And now he's making those shots with confidence, and now you got to guard him a little bit more honestly, and then he can get into more of the action he's comfortable with, getting downhill because guys have to guard him a little bit tighter, not giving him as much room, things of the like. So I think for him is picking his spots and taking what the defense is giving him and really showing that he can knock down shots from wherever on the floor, and that'll kind of open up the rest of the floor for him to be able to do what he likes to do.
Devon Pouncey, he's a basketball analyst for the RipCityRemix. He's also a friend of the program. He's joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. So, you got the trade deadline coming up on Thursday, Pounce, and obviously a lot of the talk is around Malcolm Brogdon, and it sounds like, according to some reports, Brogdon wants to stick around, right? He's kind of developed a relationship with Scoot. He's found himself a role on this team as kind of a mentor and kind of a plug-and-play pros pro point guard. But I look at this in a tough spot because there's the on paper and then there's the in person, right? Which we talk about a ton. In person, that's all well and good. Brogdon is embracing the role. Some guys might have been, going from a contender in Boston to a 15-win team in Portland. Some guys might have been really upset about that, and you could understand why. But the fact that he's embraced it is great. But that's a lot of money. That's not really the timetable. Again, that's a lot of guys that dribble the ball in the backcourt, especially when Shaedon comes back. When you look at the situation with Malcolm Brogdon, it's kind of a tough spot. I think he's going to be traded. I don't know where you're at on that, but where do you think ultimately Brogdon ends up by the time they take the court on Thursday?
Ooh, I mean that's a tough call because I think he very well could be traded as well. But I also think that the Blazers kind of have a lot to where if they don't trade him, that it's not the end of the world, either for him or for the organization. Because again, one thing I will say is I do think Brogdon has embraced being a veteran guard on this team and kind of really helping to shape and mold these young guards on and off the floor. Brogdon obviously is a very skilled player. He can go out there and he's had a long career for a reason. And then also off the floor, he's just solid as a rock, a mature guy, stands for a lot of good things. And I think he's a really good person to have for young guards like Ant, young guards like Scoot, young guards like Shaedon Sharpe. So I don't really know. It's kind of hard because you also don't want to just trade him for the sake of trading him either, especially because he has embraced that role. It'll be one thing if he came in and didn't really embrace the role. You could kind of feel if he didn't embrace the role of sort of like being that vet and wanting to really help these young guys because he believes that they are going to have a really, really bright future in the coming years and wanting to be a part of the early stages of that. But he has full-on embraced it. And so for me, can he be traded by the end? Yes, but I don't think you just trade him for the sake of trading him. I think you trade him for pieces that you feel like you need, maybe some front court pieces to try to really continue to build out what you want the future of this roster to be. And so I don't think it's fully in the Blazers' control, if you will, in terms of getting the deal that they want for Brogdon because maybe every contender in the league wants to go get him. But I do think, you got to explore the options, of course. And if they can find the right deal that fits what it is that they want to do and to continue to build on what they want to do for the future, then you can potentially go ahead and make that happen. But I don't think there's any, urgency of getting rid of him right now because he has full-on embraced that veteran role and can really help that deep stable of young guards that the Blazers have.
Devon Pouncey, friend of the program, basketball analyst for the Rip City Remix, joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, Pounce, I want to talk about DeAndre Ayton because it's fascinating to kind of see how this year has gone for him, right? He kind of came in for the Blazers off of the trade in September, and he was ready to be out of Phoenix. I think Phoenix was ready for it. It was not working. There was some tension there, and I remember the video of him walking in going like, man, it feels like college again. Then kind of dealt with the knee injury, the unfortunate ice storm that kept him in his Ferrari sitting in West Lynn and not at and a couple people kind of called him out. And since coming back from the knee injury and kind of getting called out, Pounce, you look at the last 5 of the last 6 games, he's at 22, 18, 20, 27 in that game against Denver. Only one game, tough spot in that first game against Denver. Also pulling in 11 boards, 12 boards, had 18 rebounds. I love motivated DeAndre Ayton, and I can see I've been on board with the move since they traded him. The Blazers needed to move on from Nurk. Phoenix needed to move on from DA, and it seemed to work out. I love motivated DA, and I'm wondering how do we get more people out there to continue to call him out and maybe say some things like he's not a max player so that he continues to be fired up and keeps dropping in 25 and 12 every night.
I think everything when it comes to his motivation, it comes from him.
Yeah.
He's always been a skilled player. He's a number 1 overall draft pick, so it's never been a question of skill or ability with DeAndre Ayton. We knew he could be the type of player he is from when he was in college, when he was playing at the University of Arizona and, doing it in the Pac-12. And obviously, he still was a big-time piece in helping to rebuild a not-so-great franchise in the Phoenix Suns to a team that ultimately was able to become a contender while he was there. And I don't particularly think that happens without him. I think for him, a lot of it is just more so internal. And what I mean by that is, obviously, things, as you mentioned, there was maybe some tension in Phoenix, and then you get here to the Blazers, and then, you got to kind of try and figure out new reasons to want to thrive in that way, because he's not playing for a team anymore that is a contender. He's playing for a team that's essentially in a rebuild mode. And then when you just kind of look at the trajectory of things with him and with the Blazers and the way that they've, handled injuries and allowing guys to really take the full amount of time or really as much time as they need to sit out because they're not playing to try to get a playoff spot or even a play-in spot for that matter right now, there's certain elements that can make you a little bit less motivated when you can kind of take your time getting yourself together and pulling yourself together to ultimately get back fully healthy 100%, and the pressure just isn't maybe as high for you to have to get back out there on the floor and be the guy that he's ultimately become today. And I think now that this team is fully healthy, I think all of these guys are playing with a little bit more motivation, and they've just been a more competitive team overall. Yeah, they're still young, and they're going to struggle to finish winning some games, but since this team has become, majority healthy, obviously we're still waiting for the return of Shaedon Sharpe, but since this team has become majority healthy, I think every last player on this team has kind of put out a little bit more effort and felt like they've had a little bit more to play for because they're showing that they can compete with the unit they have. It's just more so about finishing. So for DA, I feel like it's just more internal. I think he came in with some pretty good motivation, and then the health of the team just plummeted. And now that the health is kind of getting back to full strength, all of these guys, especially DA, are starting to pick up their competitiveness. They're starting to play better basketball, and you just feel like you have a better chance to go out and win games when you have a healthy team rather than knowing we're coming in very unhealthy, very young, in a rebuild phase of our season, and sometimes it's harder to get motivated for that, basically knowing you're walking into a game with a high percentage and a high chance of losing rather than walking into a game feeling like you have a chance at victory.
All right, Pounce, before we let you go, we have had some fun on this program, rehashing an old segment. We're going to do a mini version of Ebony and Ivory because it was you that educated me years and years ago that your community had different Thanksgiving food than my community, which was it was a tremendous bit of knowledge for me that I learned. Maybe some of your food, maybe a little bit better. So other than Thanksgiving, though, Pound, Super Bowl is like the biggest food day on the calendar. So I'm wondering what's on what's at the Pouncey Super Bowl party menu? Is it wings and nachos like my community, or is there maybe something a little different?
Yeah, it's wings and nachos. Yeah. I mean, I like to rock with the wings and nachos. I say more finger foods. You know what I'm saying? I think Super Bowl parties are good for finger foods and of course good drinks because you gotta feel yourself a little bit for not just the game but obviously the halftime performance, which the great Usher will be performing at this year, and I'm very, very, very excited about that, and I just hope that Taylor Swift isn't marketed more than Usher is this weekend, and that we can make this Usher's weekend. But I don't think that's going to quite happen fully. He'll obviously get a lot of pub, being that he will dominate the halftime performance, which is my expectation of him. But yeah, I would say more finger foods, wings, nachos, pizza. Things that are like we don't really go all out like we do for Thanksgiving with the extravagant dishes, if you will, and the casseroles, if you will, on Super Bowl weekend. We just got to make sure we got something to eat to be able to offset some of the drinking that's going to be going on.
Yeah, that's the best part about living on the West Coast. Three o'clock Super Bowl is way better than 6 o'clock Super Bowl. I couldn't even imagine what those East Coast people, what that Monday morning must be like. Usher, he's gonna have 15 minutes uninterrupted, right there in the middle of the world, ready for everybody. I'm old school Usher fan. Yeah is gonna pop. It's gonna pop. I think he starts with it. I think he opens with yeah. Do you think he opens with it or closes with it?
I think that's maybe middle of the pack.
Oh, middle of the pack.
I think that's maybe middle of the pack. I think he goes a little. I think he opens maybe a little bit older. I think he goes back into his. I don't know, maybe his My Way bag or something like that. You know what I mean? In the beginning, and then he picks up the energy as the show progresses. That's what I think. Because I don't think he can end it a little bit slower or get a little slower. Because first of all, he doesn't have a celebrity. I don't think that he's going to be able to sit down in a chair and be able to serenade, if you will, on the Super Bowl stage. So with that, I think you get the slow stuff out of the way earlier and just pick up the intensity and the energy of the show as the show progresses.
Maybe like goes chronological. So he opens up with "Make Me Wanna." That's junior year, high school. Pounce. You were in kindergarten.
I was a young pup, but I was around. You know what? I mentioned the whole Taylor Swift thing, where he would steal the weekend. If I know it's not going to happen. I know it's not. But if some way somehow he was able to get Taylor Swift on that stage and sing to her like he does every other celebrity at his residency in Las Vegas, he would steal the weekend doing that. I'll tell you that much.
Kelsey might come out early. He might come out of that locker room early. Like, wait a minute, USHER.
Kelsey wasn't even at the Grammys yesterday. He ain't tripping.
He's trying to win a Super Bowl.
Trying to win a Super Bowl. I get it. I understand why, but he still wasn't there.
We do not have the time. I wish we did because I have other thoughts. But I love when the non-sports people like why wasn't he at the Grammys? Like he's trying to win a Super Bowl, right? It's not like it's non-negotiable.
I'm aware. I'm aware of that.
I know you are, but there's a lot of people on the internet that are not aware. They're not aware of that.
Very much so. Very much so.
All right. Pounce, hey, have a terrific week. Look forward. Have fun watching the Super Bowl, and look forward to talking to you next Tuesday, bud.
You know it.
There you go, Devon Pouncey. We have got the RCM mailbag coming up next, 620 Rip City Radio. There we go. Time to wrap up the big show. Wait for the drop. Can you believe like people go to these concerts for like 3 hours and just like start here and then just keeps going up? At some point, like
I can do it.
And I love going to concerts. I do. At some point, I'm like, all right, we got to mix in a slow song. I got to take a seat. I need to go to the bathroom. I need to get a beer, and I need to take a seat for like maybe 2 songs.
Justin, I need to take a seat.
It's like old, like. Let's open up the mailbag, but I want to expand on this about old people at concerts because it's a real thing. Let's open up the mailbag, though.
It's time for the RCM mailbag. With any question, any topic, Justin can't duck the tough question. What do we have first?
It is fascinating because there becomes an unwritten rule at concerts of 35 and older. Let's just say they're like the focus of is 35 to say 49, right? Because I think once you get like above 50, it's like we're sitting down we might stand up for a standing O at the beginning, and then we're all sitting down and we're going to watch. But like between the ages of like 39 or 35 and 49, it's like we stand up and we're up for about 2 or 3 songs. Like, all right, slowing it down a little bit. All right, everybody, let's just take a seat because we can't do this for 3 hours. Let's all just take a seat. And it's like, Brenden, it's like an unwritten rule. And you're giving me that look. And look, I went to a lot of concerts in my 20s where it was double fisting on your feet for the opener. We're not sitting down. It's like adult concerts, grown-up concerts is like, all right, 3 songs, we're on our feet. We need to all sit down a little bit. It's a real thing.
Yeah. No.
I don't know how those crazy techno kids do it. Well, they might have some help.
Yeah. Might have
some performance enhancement, if you know what I'm saying.
Justin, I'm no expert, but at concerts there have been known to be uppers and downers. Let's put it that way.
Not talking the music though.
No, just like uppers and downers. There are people who are you're like, where do you get the energy? Oh, wait, that's where you get the energy. Got it.
Yeah,
All right, let's go.
Not my bag.
No, let's go ahead and open up the mailbag today, Justin.
Yes.
Bit of a condiment debate as we get to Super Bowl this weekend.
Interesting.
You have to remove one from your house for an entire year. Do you keep ketchup or mustard?
You got to keep mustard. Mustard's more versatile. Believe it or not, don't use a lot of ketchup in my life because, try not to eat sugar. Ketchup, a lot of sugar, not in mustard.
But Mrs. Myers likes ketchup.
Not on a day-to-day.
Okay.
We do have a thing of ketchup in there, not used very often.
Yeah, I had a classic. This question popped up and it was very apropos because I pulled I thought of you and your lovely wife last night, Justin. Yeah. After my mom and I went to my brother's basketball game, JV. Shout out. He got the W.
Go Bowman! Who'd they take down?
They beat. Who were they playing?
You remember who they were playing?
C.S. Lewis.
Is that a new thing?
Is
that new?
Newburgh, just outside of Newburgh. It's like a smaller school out of Newburgh.
Gotcha.
But regardless, so we're heading home, and we're like, oh, we'll swing through Burgerville. 2 halibut fish sandwiches. 1, remove tartar, add ketchup, baby.
Oh, my God.
And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, dude, somewhere right now, Justin's wife would be proud, man. She would be proud.
2 people in my life, both my lovely wife, whom I am married to, and Brenden, whom I am
married to, essentially.
Together for 3 hours plus every single day, both like fish sandwiches with ketchup.
It is by far it is an odd duck thing for me, Justin. But so you think, honestly, because we don't have time to get to another one here real quick, but you think mustard. You would rock with mustard and you could take ketchup out for a year? Easily could take ketchup out of, now, not out of my life, but out of my fridge. Yeah, I could have easily. So you use ketchup more like going out to eat than you do at home.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Ketchup is basically on hamburgers and French fries. That's and maybe hash browns.
Okay.
Ketchup on a hash brown.
I had this conversation with somebody yesterday.
But at home, like mustard's so good.
Yeah, it's okay. We got about 30 seconds left, Justin. But I still don't know why grown adults put ketchup on hot dogs. I have a really hard time with that.
Yeah, not for me either, but it's a live and let live kind of
I was
world.
At Costco, saw, a dude go through massive amounts of ketchup. And again, each to their own. But Justin, I associate ketchup and hot dogs with being 2 years old and sitting in a high chair.
It's like, yeah, but you also put ketchup on a fish sandwich, so I don't know if you really have a position to look down.
This is fair.
All right, that's going to do it for the big show. Thanks to Devon Pouncey. Thanks to super producer Brenden. Thanks to all of you. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning here on 620 Rip City Radio.